what's up, guys? Welcome back to Otter Creek Garage. So, behind me here we have a snowblower that I purchased last fall, winter, I guess you'd say. Basically, I bought it at an auction for 500 bucks, which was cool because around here, a snowblower like this will go for $1,000 Canadian all day long. Now I literally got it home and it snowed like crazy the next day. So I had to put it into service almost immediately. Never really got a chance to go over it well. Today, I'm going to take care of some maintenance on this. Let's go. So, what we've got here is hopefully you can read that, a new idea. Double auger snowblower. Now, I did use this last year, as I sort of had no choice, and it works well. We didn't have a horrible winter, but I did use it a fair number of times, and it works well. It has the hydraulic rotator for the chute, which is looks kind of homemade. It's kind of crude, but it works very well. The only thing I managed to do on this was make new hydraulic hoses for the cylinder because they were trashed. I sort of had no choice. One of the first things I need to do here is check this gearbox and see if there's any oil in it. Almost every snowblower I've ever had, or my dad ever bought over the years, never had any oil in it when we got it. Leaked out or whatever have you. I want to make sure there's no water in it, whatnot. And this chute affair is a little irritating. Looks like that handle broke off at one point and someone welded it back on, and it needs to be bent just slightly because it doesn't want to stay in that keeper very well. Every now and then it'll flop down on me or pop up on me, and it's not where I want it. So I found that a little annoying. It wasn't a huge deal, but I need to bend that rod, I think, a little, just to keep that in place. One other thing I want to look into was a little discussion I had with some friends of mine last year. Apparently, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that very well, but so they tell me, these snowblowers should have very little clearance down here between the round part of the chute and the paddle. Apparently, the rule of thumb, I guess you'd say, is that, let's see if we can get a better angle here. The rule of thumb is it should be able to pick up a dime if you stick the dime down in here and take the dime with it. So I don't know what the thickness of a dime is, maybe a 1/16 or something like that. Seems to me I got quite a bit more clearance than that in here. Now apparently, if you have too much clearance in there, it takes a lot more horsepower. I guess because it's having to re-blow the snow that it didn't take away. It plugs up some. I'm not real sure. I'm not 100% certain if I buy that or not. But just to put that to bed, I'd like to try that. I'd like to take some flat bar and weld it on there and take up some of that clearance and see if it makes a difference or not. I'd never heard of that. It does somewhat make sense, but I'm not sure that I completely buy that. Any of you guys out there heard of that? Drop a comment below and let me know. Am I out to lunch, or has that got some truth to it? In any case, guys, we're going to get going here and do a little service on this and make sure we're ready for winter. Okay, guys, I checked the oil level on this gearbox, and it doesn't seem too terrible bad. It's a little dirty, but it could use a little top up, but it does have a bit of oil in it. It's sitting just like right about there, which is all right. That'll work. On a gearbox like this, the rule of thumb is you want the level to be halfway up your shaft. All right, so the shaft there, the output shaft there, and the other output shaft will be the same. So you want it about halfway up. That way the gear and the shaft is sitting in the oil, and as it's spinning, it takes it around with it and goes into the bearings and whatever. That's a good rule of thumb. There are exceptions, of course, but that's the rule of thumb you normally go with. So the other thing you want to check, gearbox like this will have a vent. There's the vent hole right there. I've taken the cap out. There's the vent cap. So it's got a very fine sort of screen in the end. It's kind of hard to see, but you want to make sure that that vent, I guess that's a little bit of check ball or something like that. So you want to make sure that that vent is venting. Otherwise, and that's what causes most of the leaks on these gearboxes. If it's not venting, as this is spinning and getting warm and creating turbulence in there, it will build up a slight bit of pressure. And what it'll do while it's running is push the oil out past the rubber lip seals on your shafts. And many of you 4x4 guys know that if your vent on your rear end or your axle gets clogged with mud, you'll start leaking out your axle seals. So it's exactly the same thing. It's no different here. So I want to make sure that I clean that up real good and make sure that that's passing air through it. And I'll top that up. I don't have any gear oil here that I can find, so I'm going to have to pick some up. But I'll make sure the vent's working and we'll move on. So all I'm going to do here now is just heat this up slightly right here and bend it over. I think that's all we need. It's not real critical. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want it to latch into that keeper a little bit tighter so that it doesn't wander on me. I don't use that very often. Every once in a while, if I'm blowing a lot of snow out by the road, just to keep it from creating a big cloud for the traffic. The road is pretty busy out front of my place, so there's a lot of traffic on it, unfortunately. That's about the only time I really use it. Ooh, that tip is dirty. Heat that up, bend it in so it's a little tighter. That's all we need. Go too far, well, it'll be too damn tight and I won't be able to do it. I think that'll be enough. Okay. Now remember, Luke, that's hot. Don't touch that. Don't touch that. It's hot. Speed the process up here a little. And now we'll reinstall it, see how we made out. Alright, so I put it back on. I think I bent it ever so slightly, just a little bit too much. That last little kick I gave it was just a bit too much. It's a little too tight. I think I'll just heat it up right there. And I threw a piece of pipe on it so I could just kick it back just a tiny, tiny bit. We're just about there. Very close. That'll probably do. All right, let's see if I can do it just by hand. Yeah, I think I can. I think that handle used to be longer. Looks like it broke off. And that's probably kind of tricky, but I think that'll work. I'm going to leave it there. I'm hot. All right, guys, I got this blower. I gently flipped it over with the loader so I could see the underneath here. I don't know if you remember from a few clips ago where we saw some spots where it was torn. It's starting to tear away from the front part of it. Over here, over there, something may have went through it. It's kind of got a bulge there. So I figured the best way to deal with that would be to just gently tip it over, and then I can clean it off good and weld it. And I think I've got a strip here of 1/8 material, which is roughly what that's made of. And I can start over there, and as I go, I can kind of bend it around and follow that radius. I just keep tacking it on, tacking it on, tacking it on, and follow it all the way around. Then get past there where it's torn away so that it doesn't get any worse. And I mean, I guess we could probably weld up those rips. It's possible, but it's gotten fairly thin. It's a little rusty there. So I think I'm gonna take the wire wheel to that, clean it up a bit, and I'll get set up and start welding that on there. So we can flip it back over and see about putting those paddles on. Let's go. Alrighty, so there she is welded up. Welded that band up there all past where she's torn. Same over here. Came around past where she's torn. Just kind of tacked it on and wrapped it around. It's thin enough that I can wrap it as I go. Now I probably didn't need to do that. I mean, it looks solid enough, but it was starting to tear away, and if you don't address that when you see it, it's just going to get worse. I don't think it would have been a huge deal right away, but eventually it's going to get worse, and then it's harder to deal with. So I thought since we had it here and we'd gone that far, we would address that now. So now I'll stand it back up proper, and we'll get at those paddles. So let me run and grab the loader tractor, and we'll tip it back over. All right, guys, so she's flipped back over now. And here's the plan for this paddle affair. What I'm planning on doing is, I got flat bar cut. I'm planning on putting that on there like that, with that gap, of course, there. And we'll weld it on there a little bit. We're not going to weld the crap out of it, just in case this is like totally bogus and it jams up on me or something like that, and I can cut it off and start from scratch. But that's the plan anyway. So as it turns out, I did measure an American dime, and it's only about 6 or 7 thou thicker than the Canadian dime that I was using before. There's not a whole lot of difference. We're looking at about just over 50 thou, so just under a 16th. Now that does seem a little close to me, but that's what the experts say anyway, so we're going to give it a try. I'm going to clean some of that paint and rust off there so we can get a better weld. And I'm gonna put it on this side. I think if I put it inside the pocket on the other side of it, it'll be hard to get out if I have to. So I think if I weld it on this side, even though that's not the side that does the scooping, it's still going to perform the same way, I would think. Now that's what we're going to go with. So anyway, I'll set you guys up over here, and I'm going to get to cleaning that up and welding that up. Alright guys, so here's what I ended up doing. I discovered that the Canadian quarter is roughly the same thickness as the American dime, which was what they were referring to in the article that I read. I don't have any American dimes, and I don't have that thickness, so I used the quarter, the Canadian quarter instead. I got lots of those, so I set a quarter on each end, and I clamped it on with a clamp, and then I tacked it on. And now when I spin it around, it doesn't appear to be touching anywhere. Now, of course, let's not forget, this is an old snowblower, so that is not going to be that round anymore, even if it was round to begin with. So the chances of that thickness being the same all the way up are pretty slim. But I think that point there, the low point, is the key point. That's where it picks up and throws it up that way, up and out the chute up there. So now this is all an assumption. We don't know what's going to happen, but in any case, there's one. I'm going to do the other two, and I'll be back in a minute. Alrighty guys, here's how we came out. You'll have to excuse the atrocious welding. It was a little tricky to get a good angle on that. I probably would have been better off I stick welded that. I would have been able to get in there better. But anyway, we're not so certain that this is even going to work. But she spins around okay, so we're going to leave it like that. Here, little tiny rub, but I don't think that'll be a problem. So, all I got to do now, and I'm going to wait till I'm ready to hook it up. I got to lube those chains. I like to do it when it's running, so I get the whole chain. Get some lube on it. They're pretty rusty. And there's a couple of things I got to grease on it, but I'm going to wait till I'm a little closer to the snow, and I could hook it up to the tractor and move things around and grease it up and whatever. So the gearbox has got oil in it. I did that already. So this thing is ready to rock. All right, guys, I'm going to call this a wrap on this one. We're going to have to wait till we get some snow before we try out this myth here and see whether this actually did any good. To be honest, I don't care if we get any snow. I'm not a big fan of the snow, so if I don't ever have to use this, it's fine. However, I'm sure we're going to get some. So stay tuned. When we do get a good snowfall and I need to use this, I'm going to take you along with me so you can see for yourselves whether this made any difference or not. Who knows? Before I let you go, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up button. It really helps out the channel. And if you haven't done so already, do me a big favor and subscribe. It doesn't cost you a dime, and it only takes a second. We're going to have to get this out of here and move on. We've got some other stuff lined up. I'm on the hunt for cool stuff to keep you guys entertained. So, until next time, we'll talk to you soon.